Greetings. I had to talk and my mic never minute and apologies. Good morning on this beautiful Saturday morning, January 18th, 2025. If you're seeing and hearing us, we are in Belize, Central America. And this morning, that the first of 11 more monthly Belize Bluebonn Awareness Zoom Community Reasoning, brought to you by United Black Association for Development Educational Foundation and Belize Federation of Fishers. We only have 1 hour, so we have to make it as tight as possible. The way it works, in the first half hour, I would have a question and answer segment with the guests for the day. And in the last half hour, anyone else that joins the Zoom can reason with us about it. And so it's from 10 to 11 this morning. Our guest this morning is Nigel Martinez, the director of the Belize Federation of Fishers, where we represent all fishers in Belize and especially fishing communities. And Nigel have 8 questions where he want answer. And then questions will cover Belize public debt, the Belize Blue Bond Loan. It will break down the money regarding payments and savings, the Nature Conservancy, TNC, Belize conservation commitments and milestones and its social impact, like how that will impact Belizeans, fishers, fishing communities, penalties if the commitments are not met, or if Belize default on the payment, and what does Belize Federation of Fishers want to happen next. Okay, I shut up now and pass the mic over to Nigel Martinez. Our co-host this morning is Brother George Myvitt, and we're broadcasting on XTV local channel. The Master Chief Operator in XTV studio is Krista Flowers. We're also live streaming on XTV Belize YouTube and Facebook XTV Belize. Welcome, Nigel.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. Morning to all our fishing communities across this country and to our listeners and viewers abroad. Now, just before we dive into the conversation, in 2023, the BFF was denied 75,000 US that would have assisted 10 boat captains with 3 members for needed equipment to fish deeper. So since 2023, we have been with support from our partners and advisors, been analyzing this blue bone project to get an understanding of its intricate components. So today, we want to do a deep dive and look at the impacts to our national debt, the livelihood and well-being of our fisher folks and fishing community. And at the end of this deep dive, our viewers and people will have a clearer picture whether or not this loan was truly fair in terms of economics, ecology, social justice, and would be able to form their own opinion. So that's how we want to start the conversation, sis. But I just want to state for the record, it was very challenging to analyze some of the numbers because of the different reports, domestic, from international, as well as from TNC. So that posed some challenge, but we believe that we got it right and we are ready to share this information.
Okay, brother. Mecca, go ahead and pull up the questions that Nigel had to know the questions in advance so that Nigel could be prepared to answer the questions. And we hope this take about, let's say about 15 minutes, and then there'll be one free flow after that. Okay, the first question for Nigel is, okay, how many times have Belize restructured its public debt?
That's an interesting question to start. Prior to the Blue Bond, Belize has defaulted, it has changed its bond terms, and it had to restructure its debt 3 times over the last 15 years. So we have document that shows that we had to restructure in 2007, in 2013, in 2017, and the last restructure was in 2021. And the reason behind this restructuring was because we were repeating the same mistakes, which is over optimistic assumptions, insufficient reliefs, and selective approach to creditors' participation, while we were excluding our multilateral, bilateral, and domestic creditors. And this is very important to note, because the current blue bond, is on the same trajectory to repeat the same mistakes. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because in 2020, the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, classified the debt as unsustainable, but also state it remains unsustainable in absence of additional measures. Why? Because Belize has a history of defaults. Now, our government pushed back, along with Mr. Marcus Spat, who was the domestic financial consultant who advised the country on the debt for nature swap. And their pushback was because with an IMF loan, Belize would have meant that we would have had higher taxes, job losses, social and conservation projects.
Good. Question number 2. I feel like a talk show host, game host right now. Question number 2. What was Belize public debt before the Belize Blue Bond Loan, BBL?
Very good. And we have a slide that you'll be able to pull up so our viewers can get a sense of what the public debt was. So at the end of 2020, Belize public debt reaches $2.1 billion, or 4.2 billion Belize dollars. And this was recorded in the PM budget speech. And the way how he described this budget, the way how he described our public or national debt, he gave it the description as the equivalent to $10,000 for every man, woman, and child, and $50,000 in debt for each family of 5. Now, according to the numbers, 73%, which is 1.533 billion US dollars, was associated to domestic, multilateral, and bilateral creditors. Now, for whatever reason, this large group was explicitly excluded under the Belize Blue Bond project. So if you're able to share that screen, you'll see that the domestic represent 1.35 billion, multilateral 794 million, bilateral 872 million, and commercial 1.168 billion, with a domestic US bond of 60 million. So that right there is the complete breakdown. What the national debt was in 2021, $4.2 billion that led us to restructure the super bond. And maybe I should have said at the beginning some of the challenges that occurred, why we needed to structure as well. And some of those challenges were, at the end of 2020, Belize was struggling to service its national debt. And as I mentioned, the debt had reached $2.1 billion. But we were also battling the COVID-19 pandemic. We had major flood from Hurricane Eta. And the way how that super bond was structured, it was unsustainable. And we also had a penalty that exceed 100 million US dollars if we defaulted.
Okay, Nige, wanna work with me, right? Because at the land was screen sharing. So the next question is, what was Belize's debt per ratio in 2021? What was Belize's debt per ratio in 2021? And let me know when you're ready for slide 2, Nigel. Right now, what we have up is the blue loan breakdown.
Okay, we'll get to that right now. So at the end of the agreement phase, or at the agreement phase, Belize debt for ratio was around 125%. Now, as I indicated earlier, there are several reports out there that would have the debt for ratio between 121 to 133%. But at the time of the agreement, the debt ratio was 125%. Now, this is very crucial because when you talk about a country's debt, the investors look specifically on the debt in order to ensure that the country would be able to repay back its funds. So, the way how the Prime Minister described our debt, we were at the sixth most indebted country in the world. So only Japan, Greece, Venezuela, the Sudan, and Lebanon had a higher public debt ratio than Belize. And the analogy that he used to describe it was very alarming, because he went on to say that our debt was like a member of a family who returns home to discover that his or her sibling who has been in charge of handling the family resources has not only squandered the savings, but owes every bank and loan shark in town. And the previous slide showed all the multilateral, all the domestic, all the bilateral creditors that we had owed. So every single solitary person we borrowed. So our debt was extremely high, and it made it very, very difficult for us to borrow.
All right, the next question is, explain the breakdown of the blue bond regarding payment, savings, etc.
So just a follow-up to the debt ratio, a recent study of Latin American countries found that sustainable debt to GDP should not exceed 60% of the GDP, or a ratio of 0.6 to 1. So we were far, far above that, and that made it extremely difficult for the PM, or for the country, to go out and to borrow and to service its debt. Now, you could pull up the breakdown for the loan, because this is very interesting for our listeners and viewers. So in November of 2021, both the TNC and the Belize government complete a debt for nature swap. And this reduced our debt stock by $216 million, or 12% to the GDP. So if you look at the breakdown, you'll see that the Eurobond, or AKA Super Bond, was $553 million. This represents all of Belize's external commercial debt and a quarter of its total debt, 30% of GDP. So we had to restructure, and we restructure into this new blue bond loan at a total of 364 million US dollars. This represents 85% of the bondholders who had agreed to a 55 cents on the dollar discount. Now, the component of that new loan is where it gets interesting, because of that new loan, $301 million retired the super bond at 55 cents on the dollar discount. 39 million was transaction costs, liquidity reserve, and original issue discount. And $23.5 million went into a conservation trust endowment. And some may ask, well, what about the savings? Well, it was referenced as savings, but in documents, it's referenced as debt benefit. And this is the difference that Belize would have had to pay if we would have had to meet the 553 million super bond loan. So that remaining balance, which is referenced as the principal reduction, this was basically an 87 million to DFC, but this is a DFC International, to cover a 601 million political risk insurance. Now, we do not have this money, so we are paying this money over the life of the loan. We also have the 84 million conservation fund, which we are paying again over the life of the loan, 4.2 million annually. And then we also have a management fee because we are unable to manage this this deal. TNC, who were the one that set it up, dubbed us with a management fee of $14 million. And
One
now
second, Nigel. Please be very specific. We're talking about United States dollars.
that is correct.
Twice
Yes,
in Belize dollars.
that
And
is
the
correct.
international DFC is the United States International. What DFC mean again?
The U.S. International Development Finance.
Thank you, Nigel.
Yes. So the numbers that I have stated are those are of U.S. dollars, U.S. currency.
You finished with that slide, or you need another slide, or left that slide up?
You could leave it up so that people can recognize what that it is or what those figures represent. And then based on that, I can go into the rates, the coupon rates and payment. So currently, we are only paying interest on this on this loan. So since 2022, we are being paying interest at 3%, and then every year it goes up. So currently, right now, it's at 5.15%, but in 2026, it's going up again to 6.04% onward. So that is going to be the new interest rate in 2026. Now, we did not get a copy of the debt repayment loan schedule. So for us to have analyzed what the principal would have been, we had to read through the documents to get a clear picture that we will be start paying principal on this amount throughout the last 9 years of the loan period, which is 2032 to 2040 at approximately 40.5 million US dollars annually for the last 9 years of the loan. So that is very, very important for people to understand that currently we are only paying interest and we won't start paying principal until the last 9 years of the loan. Now,
Nigel, can you tell us what the principal is and what the total interest will be over the life of the loan? Do you have those figures?
I can't say categorically what the total interest would be over the life of the loan, but what I can say, based on the document that we have analyzed, since the principal will be repaid in semi-annual payments throughout the last 9 years of the loan, we can anticipate that approximately 40.5 million US dollars would be paid annually. So when you look at 40.5 annually for the next 9 years, you're already covering the entire loan. So that's like around 360 plus 336,000 US dollars.
That's without interest.
Correct. That's without interest. 336 million dollars, right? That's without interest.
Okay, I don't know.
But during that period, starting 2032, you will you will start paying both principal as well as interest. Currently, right now, we are only paying interest on the debt.
Okay, Nigel. The next question is at a multitask. So now work with me for a minute. We're having this conversation about the Belize Blue Bond awareness with the failure of the state to do that before they sign black and white. Enough for we name what Belizeans have to pay back. They never have one awareness campaign. So both the UBAD Educational Foundation and Belize Federation of Fishers, they lead this 1 year long, consistent Blue Bond awareness campaign. Number 5, how is the Nature Conservancy, I'm sorry, what is the Nature Conservancy and what is the role of the Nature Conservancy in Belize Blue Bond loan and their cost?
Very good. Because this question right here is the key and the heart to the transaction. The Nature Conservancy, TNC, is a non-profit entity. So they could not borrow or they could not lend money. So in the documents, they are referenced as the deal arranger. But for layman terms, we want to call it the middleman, right? So they played a critical role between Belize and between the bondholders. And they have a system in place whereby they would borrow money from investors that are looking for sustainable investment opportunities in the US and in Europe. So, because of that, they were able to secure these bondholders. Now, bear in mind, this was not TNC first debt for nature swap. They did so back in 2001, whereby they protected 23,000 acres of forest, and recently they had purchased 236,000 acres of Silva Maya tropic forest in northwestern Belize. But in order for them to have facilitate this blue bond loan, they had to set up a special vehicle company. So they had established this Belize Blue Investment Company (IIC). Sorry, Belize Blue Investment Company (LLC) as the initial lender. So that company was the one that signed off on the loan agreement. And then we also had the Belize Blue Investment Company (LLC) as the administrative agent, and as well as the Belize Blue Conservation Trust that the endowment funds went into. So because of this, then TNC had the legal authority to enter into this loan agreement with Belize. Now, bear in mind, this is not the first nature bond project for them. Actually, this is their 5th nature bond project. They did so back in 2016 with the Seychelles. In 2021, it was Belize. In 2022, it was Barbados. 2023 is Gabon. And 2024 with the Bahamas. So clearly, based on testimony from their senior director from Nature Vest, who plays an integral part because he's a part of the TNC Impact Investment Unit. And in his statement, he has said that Belize needed a debt solution. And the reason why TNC knew this was because they had an office on the ground and they have been here for decades. So they clearly understand the dynamics of our resources. They clearly understood that for years, our fisheries have been in a state of decline. So, in all good faith, being here for 3 decades, TNC could have come to the people and dialogue with us to let us understand the scope of what this blue bond was all about. and they failed to do so.
Nigel, in our fairness, that they're not TNC interest or agenda. They're not all we nothing. The government of Belize, that the one where Belizeans vote in the office, that they have the duty, commitment, and obligation. So we really need to hold the state accountable because if the state never entertain TNC and all the banksters couldn't access all what they access. So that really the government, I believe, we need to hold accountable. This administration specifically, well, the both administrations, because this come from the defaulting on what's known as the super bond. And the super bond come from, I think, 1998 to 2008 under the Said Musa administration for a bunch of loan what they take out. Make I pull up that news story so you can see it for yourself. But you can finish that thought and then you make a know if you want to ask you the next question while I bring up this news item for sure.
Well, we are stating some of the facts, and we allow people to form their own opinion. I agree that both parties are at fault because they did not come to the people to find out our perspective, to give us a chance to dialogue and to analyze the situation. They went ahead and made these decisions arbitrarily, and I recognize that we were in a very, very difficult situation, but that's beyond the point. We have to understand that we are talking about people livelihood and well-being, and for the mere fact that when you look at the three pillar of sustainability, what is clearly absent from this blue bond agreement is the social component, and this is what is affecting our livelihood. I mean, you have to recognize that our fisher folks feed this nation, and if you are going to ensure that you are going to take out and mortgage our resources, then we have to ensure that we benefit, and currently that is not the case. And TNC, being a non-profit organization that wants to see sustainability, that cares about lives and livelihood and well-being, should have ensured that the government and the consultants have some component that would have addressed the social component of the pillar of sustainability.
I hear you, Nigel. I hear you. And we have different positions on this. Members say everybody have their own interests and agenda. You know, NGOs, for the most part, for their agenda will be whatever for their funder agenda is. Because that's where the bag money come from. So TNC have one investment unit when they nature based. Now, since when environmental NGOs get into financing and they look for money, like then turn the Green Wall Street. Since when? And sort of anyway, so that's why I agree that they have some ethical responsibility as a business, but in a this racist capitalist system, economic system where most of we in ethics that are part of the reality. Okay, with that I would 10:30 point now. So make a hurry up.
Well,
Go ahead.
just this last point, according to Bender, there's money to be made from Wall Street banks arranging these types of deal. So clearly, now people will now look at TNC and can deem and deem them whether they are conservation. They are a conservation group or not. I mean, so that is open for debate. And these are, we can look at all organizations now that are looking to this blended finance approach. because you know that recently, a few years ago, I believe, TASA had also did a blended finance approach, and they got significant amount of money, and they are dubbed as an NGO. So when you start changing the dynamics, because when you enter into these type of arrangement, there has to be money that is going to be made, and people are not investing money without getting a return. So it's very tricky, and as I mentioned, people will then can look at it now and then deem whether these organizations are exactly conservation organizations.
Okay, Nige, we're in at the community time now. So make we stop there, even though you had two more questions, and allow the community one opportunity for share whatever they want share now. And if they're not hurry up and take the mic, then we go to question 7 or 8. But we want to be fair to community participation. So una could raise your hand, or una could just open a mic and start the talk. Una have to make it quick because I can't have dead air as we're broadcasting. Anybody got anything to say? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. I don't hear nobody say nothing, so
Wait, hold on, sis. I think George wants to say
you
something.
better move because you snooze, you lose. Wait, what make a turn on?
Um,
A turn on. Okay, you're gone, clear. Go on, George. Identify yourself, please.
yes. Good morning, George Myvit, technical advisor to Belize Federation of Fishers, and really the course this morning. I had an unscripted moment a little while ago. My grandson crashed the door. I'm in my bedroom, actually, crashed through the door and was intervening on the camera. I am a scientist by training and by profession. And so a lot of the technical jargon that Nigel used, I wanted him to kind of break down in a sense. And so I have two questions, and then I'll just pass the mic on. One of them, Mr. Martinez, did I hear you saying that Belize has a total debt, the EBT debt, and the super bond is just one component of that debt? Am I right?
Yes, that is correct. It's just a quarter of the total national debt.
A quarter of the total national debt.
Yes.
So the super bond was, you called a figure, and essentially what it means is that Belize will be paying that back, that super bond. It's a debt. My grandson, how much are the super bond? My grandson, who is 7 years old, my youngest grandchild is 7 years old. How much are the super bond one he owes, and how much are the national debt does my 7-year-old grandson owe?
Well, according to the figures and according to the description that the PM gave in his 2021 budget speech, it's equivalent to $10,000 for every man, woman, and child, and $50,000 in debt for each family member of 5.
So but all right, so that's a family. But so my grandson, me, my wife, and my 3, well, they're adults now, we owe $10,000 each for the super bond. And if my arithmetic is right, and the super bond is only a quarter, it means that my grandson, who owes 10,000 Belize dollars of the super bond, he basically owes the country of Belize $40,000. Am I right? Is my arithmetic right?
That is correct, if the numbers are in US or Belize dollars.
But I have a question. We don't have a super bond anymore.
Well, he's talking about the new bond.
Well, all right, yeah. So there's clarification there. The debt has been restructured.
Correct.
The debt has been restructured. And the restructuring of that debt brought in a financial arrangement that has been called the super bond.
No, the debt have been restructured to now the blue bond loan.
The blue bond loan.
Yes, it's no longer the super bond.
Okay.
Remember,
Okay.
the blue bond loan has retired the super bond.
Very good. Very good.
Sis, maybe can you pull up that slide with the breakdown of the national debt for 2021? No, the other one. You see, what is very important for people to understand that the super bond, which was 553 million US dollars, that represented all of Belize's external commercial debt and a quarter of its national debt, which is 30% of the GDP. Now, when that bond was retired, there is a new blue bond loan.
Is it that one, Nigel? The coupon rates payments?
No, it's the first.
Which one is it?
It's the one that has the breakdown national debt 2021.
Okay.
Now, when the super bond was retired, Mr. Marvin.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we had then this new blue bond loan, which was for $364 million. So that replaces the super bond.
Very good. Very good. So super bond replaced now by the blue bond. The debt has been retired. All right, good. Well, I said two questions, but if you would allow me half. Okay, there's the okay. Allow me half while we try to get the
1 second, Nigel.
Right on this.
1 second, George. Nigel, I need to know what number screen it is that you need me to share, because I'm not looking at the writing. Is it screen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you want me to share right now? The first one was the blue loan breakdown. The second was the coupon rates, and it's the blue loan breakdown you want me to show.
Yes, correct.
And that's what I bought at first, and you said it wasn't that one.
Wait, no, it's the one that has the domestic, multilateral, bilateral, and commercial. That's the one with the breakdown.
I don't know which one it is.
But can I in the meantime go ahead, Sister Yaya?
Breddah.
Yes. All right. So my half question, Nigel, is my understanding. You did mention debt for nature swap, or debt for nature. You didn't use the word swap. But my understanding of a debt for nature, it's normally an arrangement between creditors and debtors, where the debtor will put into some kind of conservation status a portion of its territorial domain in exchange for its debt being forgiven. But it seems to me that the debt itself, I don't know if we could use the word forgiven if the super bond was forgiven, because you did talk about discounts, etc. Is it right to consider this a debt for nature swap, or is the blue bond arrangement a situation where there are elements of a debt for nature swap? Are they the same? Is the blue bond a debt for nature swap, or is it that it has elements of a debt for nature swap?
It has elements of a debt for nature swap. It was dubbed the Conservation Agreement. It was a debt for nature swap between the government of Belize and the Nature Conservancy. We can't shy away from that. It was 364 million US dollars conversion for marine conservation. Now, there was commitment behind this. And one of the commitment is to protect 30% of the Belize Sea. So that's part of where the debt for nature swap comes in.
But there are some elements of it that would not be described as 100% debt for nature, because I think in the beginning of it, you talked about investors and Wall Street. Am I right to say there's a kind of marketing arrangement or a market arrangement outside of the classical debt for nature swap definition?
Yeah, there's a blended finance component behind it. There are big Wall Street bankers that are behind investment like these, and because of that, they are investors who will make a profit. So while we have said that several of the conditions relates to our marine resources, there's also that component that would yield returns on those bondholders' investment.
Nigel, the screen is up now.
Yes, correct. That's the screen right there. So if you look at it, Mr. Maivit, you will see clearly that where it says commercial at the bottom, that's the 2034 Superbond external commercial creditors. Now, this is specifically what was restructured, just that component, not the entire debt. So it's only a quarter of our national debt that was restructured, which is the Superbond, which was 553 million US dollars.
Well, I've taken up some time, so I will retire my questioning and intervention and allow for the other members of the audience to make their intervention.
Thanks, George. Go ahead. Introduce yourself. The next person, please.
Jerry Enriquez here. I just wanted to find out, I think it is instructive for us to go back to look at the nature of how Belize accumulated these debts that Yaya had pulled before in one of the breaking news, the Mahogany Heights, the Los Lagos, the healthcare partners. That means the government is showing as if the government took some debt for these private entities, and Belize, the population of Belize, Maivit's grandson, my grandchildren, our grandchildren will have to pay for these debts that somebody else is benefiting from, these and which the Belizean public never even, we can say, are still not benefiting from. So it would be instructive for us to list those out, if you can do that, for us to see what are we paying for through all of this. And then second question is the Belize government currently, or is the population currently learning from those same patterns of debt that we incurred in the past, given that we're seeing more debts incurred for a variety of things? So it seems that as soon as we're out one fire of debt, more debt is accumulating, and it is not necessarily for the broader benefit of the Belizean public, who in the end will continue to pay these debts.
Well, yeah, when you look at it, when you look at the trend, you have seen whereby it's like a credit card. You go to the bank, you tell the bank, listen, I want to clear my credit card. Then give you money to clear the credit card. So you have a loan, you have a clean credit card. And then you go right back up and you max out that credit card. So you have the credit card and you have the loan. So I am saying that when you look at the amount of times that we have been restructuring these debts, hence the reason why IMF stated that one, it is unsustainable, and two, we have one history and not paying our bills. So we continue to kick the bucket down the road. And this is the reason why we are seeing these restructuring after restructuring, and hence the reason why the Prime Minister have stated that we have either palm out or mortgage out with assets or we sold them out because we're running out of options, and we're continuing to run out of options unless we address the crisis, the national crisis that we're facing. Hence the reason why the IMF is saying, listen, you continue down this way, there's no change. We actually have data that suggested, they have this Statista, which is a German online platform that forecasts our national debt to continuously increase between 2024 to 2029, and have stated that after 7 consecutive increase year of our national debt, by 2029 we will reach a peak, which would be 2.26 billion US dollars. That's 135%, or a ratio of 1.35 to 1 debt to the GDP. So we have to make some kind of changes. We cannot continue not to pay our debts, and then when the appointed time comes, the only bailout, the restructure.
Right now, the time check is 10:48. And the reason why we have this Blue Bond campaign is because the state failed to do it prior for going to take out money now for Winnie. You see, one of the, and our valid point, Brother Jerry Enriquez made. So let me just quickly look at this, this news story that says, and this is from, I'm reading from the Where Did the Super Bond Come From? And this is Breaking Belize News, Friday, March 19, 2021. And one paragraph says, the period of the exchange falls under the Said Musa administration, 1998-2008, where a number of loans were taken for projects such as the dredging at the Port of Belize Limited, Mahogany Heights Housing Project, Los Lagos Housing Project, Small Farmers Bank, and Universal Healthcare Services UHS loan, among others. The IMF working paper noted that at the time GOB exchanged the debts for the bonds, the government was facing an acute external liquidity shortage due to high debt service burden. So I just gone and read that because Brother Jerry asked that that I did that. But at this point, we're having the conversation to raise awareness, so Belizean people want better think for themselves when they watch the news, when they hear people attack privately, that you have some additional knowledge about the Blue Loan. It's 10:50 right now, and we'll come back another Saturday when I finish this conversation. My question to all of you right now over there is, as Belizeans, we have this conversation, but this is primarily a system. This is something what we inherited from the colonizers. We're going through neocolonialism now. And because there wasn't any intention to change the economic system the way this is not democracy. Unless we change the actual system, and those in power, not see no reason for change the current the benefit. So what would be the solution?
I wanted to just insert one thing, just based on what you say. It is a deep structural problem in our whole economy. Even before we took on these two bonds, the debt for nature swap and then the blue bond, soon after independence, Belize faced a serious debt crisis in the first term of its independence, so much so that, and the pattern is the same, so much so that the Esquivel administration in 1984, thereabouts, sold 700,000 acres of Belize's land to Coca-Cola in northern Belize. So that's a first kind of arrangement where Belize's land or natural resources are sold or pawned out to take care of these careless and these huge loans that we're facing, and then land sold to foreign interests, chunks of acres to try to get money in the national treasury. And so all of this shows a pattern since then for us to be able to every time raise the debt, as Nigel mentioned.
Well,
Hello?
yeah, now we're hearing.
Oh,
That was my error. I was trying to unmute George, and then I unmute Jerry by mistake. So I'm sorry about that. We have 8 minutes. So Jerry, if you could say the last minute, I will say over real quick, so we could hurry up and get everybody in, and then we could lock off at 11.
well, I was just emphasizing that it's a structural problem, and unless we find, unless the two political party system find deep ways of transforming the way we run our country, then we will continue to face this kind of credit card way in which we deal with our national economy.
But Jerry, they have shown us that they have no intention. So we just have to tell ourselves the truth. And this is where a conscious, educated population will have people power. It won't take one a while, but the more knowledge and the more confidence Belizean people get in ourselves, that we have more power than the people in power, in no one change. And that historically.
Of course, yep.
Nigel, you may want to say?
Yeah, I was going to say that one of the things that we got to do is to continue to educate and build capacity within our people, continue to bring them the level of awareness that they need to know. Because right now you could go into any of the fishing community, or you could even go to the everyday individual on the street. Nobody really knows what this blue bond is, how it's going to impact their livelihood for the next 2 decades. And we did not even cover the costs. So to each time we restructure a debt, it's costing us more. And these are not small costs. The cost alone for TNC to restructure this debt was 14 million US dollars. And because we did not have the funds to pay them, they gave us as a loan. So it's very important that people understand the dynamics behind these type of transactions.
And then Nigel, please make the connection about how Belizean people pay their money back. How, because like we really have a disconnection. We say Belizean people and pay, but Belizean people not really understand how it is that we pay back this money. Like our children are born in debt, indebted, dead indebted. But tell me how we pay into that money. Then go pay the bag of money people, TNC, the lawyers, the Wall Street, pensioners. How Belizean people pay that money back?
Well, every day we're paying it. We're paying it with this cost, the high cost of living. Every single time we go to the store, every single services we pay for, we are paying these high debts. And it will continue to be so because the government has to ensure that it generates the amount of revenue to service these debts.
Okay, we got 5 minutes. Everybody, if you don't want 1 minute for sale on the final thoughts, or anybody want to say something before we go, this is a moment. You have the mic. Go ahead and share.
Yeah, am I on or you still have me muted?
You're on.
Oh,
Wait.
yeah, very good. Nigel, we talked about who is going to pay back the debt. I believe you touched on an endowment, a fund. You touched on there's a benefit of this arrangement where the government is obligated to set aside a certain quantum of funds on an annual basis. How are fishers? I'm also a fisherman, but I can't say how are fishers generally benefiting, which is both genders. How are they benefiting, if if any at all, from this blue bond arrangement?
You have 2 minutes, Nigel.
Well, fishers are not benefiting directly or indirectly. The way how the blue bond was set up, as you rightfully mentioned, there's a conservation payment annually of 4.2 million US dollars. That works up to 84 million for the next over the life of the loan. Now, when that is completed, there's an additional 90 million that is coming from the endowment, which is another $23.5 million that is gaining interest at 7%. So overall, the conservation community will yield approximately 180 million US dollars in 2 decades, or over a 40-year period. We are saying that the fisher folks whose livelihood, who are the biggest stakeholders that depend on the resources, is not benefiting. And we have outlined 2 critical documents that is fighting for the rights of these fishers so that they can benefit. And one of them is an endowment, and the other one is a revolving fund that I have to come back and explain.
All right, we have to lock off the comments for today there. We want to thank everybody who joined with today. We have shared the link. We want to share it with other people. It's important that fishers participate in these conversations. We can't debat for the fishers and then they're not sure. If you ever see, send somebody in your family member to participate in their webinars, these Zoom conversations, community conversations. One will happen every month. Make a put out right now. We will send out invitation for 2 people. We want 2 people come in at this space and talk to we on all it to we. And then 2 people want to be Christopher Cowie and Marcus Spot. On all it to the Belizean people for contact to we. But negotiations want to make enough for we name. But money what we children will have to pay back. We to pay it back, but then I ban it and then I have to pay it back. I don't think that's too much of an ask. For ask both Marcus Spot and Christopher Cowie for coming at this space and answer to the Belizean people questions that we have as it relates to negotiations. We want to advise or actually action we want to do. Where impact we for the rest of we lives, today and the rest of we lives. I want to thank Christy Flowers, the Master Chief Operator at XTV. Everybody will make this possible. BFF, the Belizeans who joined the session, our international partners who did a lot of the research. Big respect to Belize Federation of Fishers who did the research for so long. And the only group of people we find other than UBAD Educational Foundation who may say, stop, make we look upon this Belize Blue Bond loan and see what it's real about. And so, Belizean people, one thing for sure, only the people want to save the people. Thanks. Have a good rest of the Saturday.
Thanks.
Thank you, Yar.